churches I've been to where they claim they can move the heavens and they don't even have enough power to blow the dust off of a cue ball. He would say things like that, and it's kind of funny, but you think about it. Bible says, it's teaching that, they have the power of God, but they have the how's that is it's where they have the
Knowledge of God and
appearance of God, but
the knowledge
they
of God
deny
and
the power.
denying the power thereof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Man, my mind went blank again on me. I had a long day today. I had to get up early and go to a meeting. Got to get up early and go to a meeting tomorrow. So, but yeah, they deny the power. They have a form of godliness. There it is. Thank you, Jesus. A form of godliness, but they deny the power of God. But Paul had the power of God. He didn't just have a form of godliness. He wasn't just looking for this outward form. He was looking for this inward power that was going to follow. He wasn't worried what man was thinking about him. He was more concerned with what God was wanting him to do. So he didn't come with enticing words, words that were going to try to persuade people because of the words he said. He wasn't looking to try to persuade nobody. He was already persuaded himself, and he wanted them to be persuaded by what he was persuaded to be. What's
He
that?
almost did.
He almost persuaded them.
He almost.
Yeah, he did.
I think that, whenever you talk to somebody and witnessing about the Lord, you should be speaking from your heart because, a lot of times when we become Christians, we don't want to say the things like that we've done wrong because we don't want people to look at us and think that we're doing wrong. Like him saying previously, he wanted to make it enticing where people would understand it, that makes you look bad and feel bad, but we shouldn't feel like that because God's brought us from that place. I remember whenever I went to Brother Dave's, one of the first times that I went, a man stood up and he started asking for prayer and said that he had been out fornicating the night before, and I nearly fell out of the pew because I thought, I can't believe somebody would stand up in the middle of church and confess to the entire church that they had been out fornicating. But truly, we need to, I don't think you have to stand up and confess if you fornicated, but we do need to be honest with one another because I'm not perfect, but none of us are perfect. And, it's through Jesus how we're able to get into the way where he wants us to be. But for me, if I can hear that someone else has maybe been through the same similar situation that I've been through, but that God brought them through and how he brought them through, that gives me strength. And so I do think that we shouldn't have to worry about how we're wording things as far as worrying about how it's going to look to other people. You know what I'm saying? We should just be with our open hearts and be honest because God knows it all anyway.
Well, by doing that, also what that man did, there could have been someone in church that night that really needed to hear that, that was having problems like in the same area. But then when they hear that, they think, man, they stood and told that and God can help them, then they know God can help them and they're not afraid because the devil tries to make us afraid of anything we got going on in us so we don't get rid of it. He wants to make us fear that. Or
And
think that we can, or there's no way. Right. Or think, well, there's no way God could forgive me. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
He died for that way.
That's right.
For us to forgive us, And we don't have to be afraid to go to him. Like you said, you don't have to stay and say, that could have been the Lord that night, especially there where it was at. It probably was definitely needed.
Yeah.
So here this word demonstration. When we look at that word, and we think about what a demonstration is. But listen, they came to them and signs followed them. They saw the things of the apostles. But the word demonstration means a manifestation of the Spirit of God. So when they told the truth and they preached that truth and they preached that gospel, they wasn't trying to add anything to it, wasn't trying to take anything away from it. They preached that true gospel. God manifested himself in spirit in that place. If we will tell this world what they really need to hear, the truth, the gospel of Christ, and it might offend some people, because it is offensive to some.
Yeah.
But if we will do this, God will manifest his spirit of power. It's a demonstration of power, means a manifestation of the power of God came there. That was a manifestation now of Christ in spirit with us. You know, when he said, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. When that's talking about in his name, that's that 2 or 3 that's going to stand, and they're going to be talking about that, the gospel of Christ. There's going to be a manifestation of Christ there and his power. Man, that is the best time to seek the Lord. I mean, there can't be a better time you're going to find than whenever you're hearing the gospel preached. So many people, it moves upon their heart. You're going to see that if you look at the Apostle Paul. Many people, it moved on their hearts. I mean, they wondered what he's saying. Some of them it said they searched the scriptures daily to see if what they said was so, if it was true, because that demonstration of the Spirit was there with them. It began to move on them. Praise God. We just read verse 5. Let's go ahead and read.
We're on fire. Yeah.
Okay, somebody just read just verse 5 for me on that one.
That your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God.
This is where it has to be. Paul was doing this for this purpose. He didn't come to them using big swelling words. Jude talked about, and Peter even talks about it, and I think it's 2 Peter, but Jude talks about it. And he says that men were going to use great swelling words of flattery. They were going to try to entice people with words that they was going to heap to themselves. He said this is what's going to happen, especially in the last days. And Jude's really talking about the time even we're living in now, but he was also the time there. They were going to look for their self-gain. They were going to try to lead people astray, and they were going to use words to do it. We've got to understand that God has he's got a plan that we draw him to him and not to man. Not to man. That God, again, it goes back to the last verse on the last chapter. If any man glory, let him glory in God. This means that, listen, nobody, Paul wasn't going to use these words and say, look, man, I persuaded them to come over because, that cross thing just wasn't working out, Lord. Man, that's not going to work. And I told them about the cross, and they answered. Now they have salvation. So it said that your faith would not stand in the wisdom of men. Stand is the big word to look at. Man, that if you look at the word stand, that means your faith stands. That means it's strengthened by it. It means it has power. It's not just something if it's something stands, that means it's action. It's doing something. Your faith would stand in the wisdom, not in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. That demonstration of the spirit of power that came upon Paul was that they would understand that it was God and not Paul. If you go back to the last chapter, we're on the same thing again. They said, listen, says, I'm baptized under Apollos. One said, I'm baptized under Cephas. One said, I'm baptized under Apollos. And Paul says, was I crucified for you? It wasn't I who was crucified, but he said it was Christ that was crucified for you. And this was that division that was coming back. There was one thing that brings us all in unity with one another, and that's when we come to the cross. That cross brings us all together under one blood, one baptism. We are one bread. So we all come together under that. Listen, this is the understanding of what he's talking about here, is that it's not in man's wisdom, but in the power of God. Somebody read verses 6 and 7 for me.
Howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world that come to naught. But we speak the wisdom.
Sorry, I lost it.
But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which God ordained before the world under our glory.
Praise God. And I'm actually. Let me go back to where I was. That was verse 6 and 7. Okay, now I got back. My Bible turned my page on me. It says to them that are perfect. This is not talking about perfect like what we think perfect, but this is Paul was talking about men that were higher up. They're speaking amongst people around him. He said, but the wisdom of this world, nor the princes of this world that came to naught, means it came to nothing. But he said, we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery. Now, you remember why Jesus said, I speak to you in parables. And he said that, that it's not for them to have, but he said that those is talking about those that love him, those that seek him. It's been given unto you. So it's this wisdom that he was speaking about. It wasn't for the princes of the world. In other words, it wasn't for the Roman leaders and the Jewish synagogue leaders that were leading people astray and they were trying to bring. These people were setting up and they're high and mighty. We're perfect. We're great. There ain't nothing wrong with us. And he's speaking in front of these people. But yet, while he's speaking in front of all these people, the smartest ones among them weren't getting it. They weren't understanding it. It was right before them, but they still wasn't getting the cross. All their wisdom, but they still couldn't understand this cross. But it was for the ones who were looking. They had been oppressed, and they knew they needed something. When I come to Jesus, when I finally came to the Lord, and I came to the knowledge and understanding, I needed to be forgiven. I mean, I was to that place in my life. Nothing else was going to do. And somebody told me about Jesus. And I heard that wisdom. It's the smartest thing I ever heard in my life. I remember the